In this series of videos on my channel, I'm going to talk about each of our publication, which is addressing some kind of detection in mood disorder, and one of the common denominator for all our publications, or at least a significant part of it, is considered for biomarker of depression. Usually we use electrophysiological signals for that, but in part of our research we also extracted voice biomarkers for that serious disease. But let me start with our recent publication from 2020, which is dealing with extracting voice biomarkers for detection of diabetes mellitus. I'm just going to elucidate very briefly on why it is possible. In diabetes mellitus, many people who are patients of that disease fail to regularly check the level of blood sugar in their blood, because maybe it is they don't have privacy to do that, or maybe some straps are expensive, and sometimes it turns out that if they don't record hypo or hyperglycemia on time, that can lead to serious complications. In our previous paper, which is going to be linked below, we actually discussed the methodology, how you can extract the glucose levels in blood from some features of speech, which is actually innovative approach to glucose levels testing in blood, since it is putting life in danger. First of our papers, which is dealing with vocal biomarkers, it was actually connected in detecting the glucose levels in blood in diabetes mellitus. I just want to briefly explain how it is possible that you can extract that serious health information from the record of your voice. Of course, voice, as any other biologically generating signal, can be translated to certain characteristics of that signal. There are a significant physiological basis for that detection. First of all, the change in glucose level in the blood flowing in the larynx and the cords causes changes in the elastic properties of the biological tissue of these organs, which in turn results in the change of spectral characteristics in compliance to the Hooke's law from physics. This is the first explanation why the glucose levels can be extracted from the analysis of voice. But another explanation, because there is no consensus among researchers about that, is that hypoglycemia is often accompanied by a feeling of anxiety, which causes people to speak faster and with greater urgency, whereas hyperglycemia, on the contrary, is often accompanied by feelings of lethargy, thereby causing speech patterns to be slower or slurred. Among families who are having members who have problems with diabetes, they can tell you that they actually recognize that something has changed from the dynamics in the voice or from the tone of the voice. Generally, they learn from their experience that the speech patterns can change, and this is basis for detection. So if we record the voice of diabetic person, and if we analyze the section of that record, extracting certain markers from it, like in any speech recognition basically, you can detect the different dynamics, different pitch, and this is a source of recognition, which can be phenomenal because this is non-invasive. It can be done without visiting the doctor's office. And this brings me to the connection with detection of depression or bipolar depression from voice. Recently, we were busy analyzing electroencephalograms or electrocardiograms of people who are depressed, trying to extract biomarkers of depression from that. But it is also possible to detect that something is wrong from the voice. The first case of recording, any recording from voice in connection to depression was from one of the fellow scientists on conference when he actually told us that by speaking with a friend who had serious suicide risk, he simply recognized that something is wrong. Later, because he was dealing with analysis of language structure and even it can be recorded that something is weird in the organization of your sentence. So basically, from any string that you're posted somewhere, or in the Facebook or Twitter or somewhere, it can be seen that something is strange in how you're forming the sentence. So this is one thing, but this is not voice. The scientist that I mentioned, actually, it prompted him to react, so he called help and he basically saved the life of that person. But later he developed analyses for such urgent situations. Because when a person is in such state, you don't have to be a trained psychotherapist to see that something is going on. You have to know that person, of course. For example, if I speak to someone who is very close to me, for example, a member of my family, I can hear from their voice that something is wrong. I can react or not, or I can maybe make an assumption what is connected to, but again, we don't think about that, but we are able to do that kind of detection ourselves. So what we are picking from that signal, actually, this is so-called prosody of voice, which is in connection to emotional state of the person. For example, we know that the baby gets the signal of safety from very tender mother's voice, which has certain prosody when she's speaking to her newborn. Also, we speak in special way to our children, and we actually encourage them that they are safe, that they can trust us, so they can be creative, not worry about the danger or something like that. But when we are talking about depression in special, I wanted to emphasize this. Something very important in depression is cardiovagal control or vagal control. Vagus nerve, which is the 10th cranial nerve, is innervating many internal organs. Among them, it's innervating our heart. That's why we can detect something from the heart dynamics, but also our larynx. And therefore, the prosody of our voice, the tone of our voice, and dynamic of how we speak is connected to our feelings, and that can be also detected. So I hope that you're going to follow, because there are many innovations in medicine already printed, but not reaching clinical practice, which I'm a strong advocate for. Thank you for listening.